Hello everyone, this is Maryna Hritsyshyna and I want to welcome you to the next episode of the podcast Clean Energy Talks. Today we will talk about development of the hydrogen market with Francesco Ottieri. Francesco is a founder of IndHex, the company that specializes on the questions connected with development of hydrogen market. And Francesco was trained at OMV, Austrian Mineral Oil Administration in Vienna, and Hydrogen Europe in Brussels on clean hydrogen market analysis, specializing in projects and technology monitoring. Francesco quickly realized the need for a centralized information platform to support the nascent clean hydrogen market. This became a reality in October 2023 when he founded IndHex, the first digital twin of the clean hydrogen market. All the while founding and developing IndHex, Francesco works as an independent clean hydrogen consultant for major clients and support large projects. In this podcast, we will talk about the development of the hydrogen market in the EU and examine the key trends globally. Francesca, now we have a lot of discussions about development of hydrogen sector. Based on your experience, what is the current state of hydrogen market?
Thank you very much, Maryna, for inviting me and for giving me the chance to give my opinion, my point of view on this very important topic. So I would say right now we need to, first of all, remember that there is already an existing production of hydrogen that is not clean. Worldwide, about 90 million tons of gray hydrogen or non-renewable hydrogen are produced every year. And for each ton of gray hydrogen, 9 tons of CO2 are being emitted on a daily basis. Therefore, there is a high need to substitute, first of all, gray hydrogen with clean hydrogen. So the current state of the clean hydrogen market is that it's, first of all, much smaller than the gray hydrogen. Worldwide, about 48,000 tons of clean hydrogen are being produced. That's only 0.5% the amount of gray or non-renewable hydrogen. Currently, as IndHex, this is our job, that's what we do. We mapped over 500 clean hydrogen projects worldwide. Of these, about 470 are active. And unfortunately, in the past 2 years, about 40 have been canceled. That's about 10% of the active projects. We have 32 projects that are operational right now, which make up 400 in total, 400 megawatt or 0.4 gigawatt of electrolysis capacity. Under construction, we have 28 projects for a total of 2.8 gigawatt, which is 5 times the operational ones. However, we should not forget the fact that among these, there is the NEOM project that is being developed in Saudi Arabia, which is worth 2 gigawatt. Therefore, apart from these projects, only 0.8 gigawatt or 800 megawatt are being under construction right now. At later stages of development, we have many more projects. For example, under FEED, we have 54 projects for 36 gigawatt in total of electrolysis capacity. Under feasibility study, about just under 300 projects for a total of 800 gigawatt. And in the concept phase, which is the most initial one where the company announces the project and the first details, we have 120 projects for a total of 92 gigawatts. Therefore, one thing that we see already is that the market is developing fast. There are every month more and more projects being developed, and this is very optimistic. On the other hand, we are also seeing a lot of projects being canceled. But those are projects that, to begin with, they did not have the solidity that other projects had.
I think it's very interesting to hear about all these numbers, especially regarding the project that's in process of construction, over 2 gigawatts. It's a huge amount, and it seems to me that the project that was consulted is not so much in comparison with the global market. However, this year, the beginning of this year, we have a lot of political events like inauguration of Trump and some changes in the policy, like the pause in IRA for next month. Then we have a lot of news about energy markets in the EU, like in Norwegia question and so on. So people talk about the mood of the market, and there is different opinion. What is your opinion about the general mood in the hydrogen market?
Thank you, Maryna. Yeah, that's a very good point. The mood, honestly, also from a personal perspective, I take active part to a lot of all of the major events in the hydrogen sector. And the mood is quite clear. There has been quite a hype in the past 3-4 years on clean hydrogen worldwide, but especially in Europe. This hype was driven by an underestimation of the costs of producing hydrogen, so the so-called levelized cost of hydrogen. Also an overestimation of the price that off-takers or potential off-takers were willing to pay for it. But also because of many government and European incentives. In the past 4 years, the European Commission has put forward over 3 billion euros for the development of the green hydrogen market. And therefore, we really have seen a hype in the past 3-4 years. Now we've come with many projects being a bit more realistic and many actually being decided to be canceled. With a better view of how the market will develop and the main issues that we are facing, the market is in general becoming more realistic. Therefore, in the next, let's say, probably 4 to 5 years, we will see less projects being developed. So it's going to be, the curve will go a little bit down. But this is actually a good thing because with these realizations, maybe less projects will be put forward and developed. But those are the most solid ones. So the efficiency rate of bringing a project from conception to operation will be higher. It will be a much higher efficiency. And then what is going to happen after that? Well, it's difficult to tell, but I believe that we will see the market growing again. So really high, low, and then high again. We should not forget that this is a very new market. Well, it's not actually a market yet, but we're preparing for a very new market with new technologies and new solutions. Whenever something like this has happened in the past, there were always highs and lows. Like a good example, for example, is AI. Nowadays, AI is everywhere and everyone talks about it and it's working really, really well. But AI was not born yesterday, right? AI can be traced back to Alan Turing in the 1950s. And in the past 80 years, there were a lot of highs and lows. And there were times, for example, in the 1970s, that everyone thought that the AI bubble would burst. And it did eventually afterwards. But then it was picked up again with new solutions being brought to the market. Therefore, yes, we are seeing a little bit of a realization that there has been a hype in the past few years, but it will pick up again. And in the end, if you put together all the highs and all the lows, the market will eventually become a really, really important puzzle of the clean hydrogen sourcing in general.
That's very interesting comparison with AI. In this case, with artificial intelligence, I think, yes, it's a new market and a lot of similarities maybe. At the same time, I'm not sure is it hype or not, because we have a lot of targets according to the different documents, strategic documents. And we remember the hydrogen strategy in 2020, then Repower EU plan. Now we have Renewable Energy Directive with certain targets that we expect to implement the national regulation in EU countries. And maybe the main question now in this year, it's is it feasible to achieve all hydrogen targets in the EU? What's your opinion about this topic?
Yeah, I think that's an important question. These targets have for sure. Let's focus, as you suggest. Let's focus on the EU because other countries have other targets. But the EU targets have played a really important role in driving confidence in the market, and in the end, indirectly driving the development of the technologies and projects themselves. However, from our point of view, and that's what actually we do at IndHex, we monitor the market and the targets. They have not been met so far, and there is very little chance they will be met. So, for example, just the one you mentioned, in the European Hydrogen Strategy published in 2020, they mentioned a target of 40 gigawatt of electrolysis being installed by 2030. Now, with the numbers that I gave you at the very beginning, it's clear that 40 gigawatt will not be installed in Europe by 2030. We're actually lucky if we can install 40 gigawatt in the whole world by 2030. Perhaps a realistic scenario would be by 2030 to install about 5 gigawatt in Europe, not 40. Then, for example, in key action 11 of the same hydrogen strategy, they mentioned also launching a 100 megawatt electrolyzer in Europe by 2030. Well, so far we haven't seen any, and there are not such big projects yet that will be ready by then. Things, could speed up, and there are a few projects that might end up being operational by 2030. They have 100 megawatt, but it's quite unlikely, unfortunately. Then when we go to the Repower EU, published in 2022 as a reaction to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the gas crisis that followed, we see an even bigger target. There is a famous 10 million tons of hydrogen being produced in Europe as a target, and an additional 10 million tons being imported from abroad. But if we do the numbers, at an average of 120 tons of hydrogen being produced per each megawatt of installed electrolysis, we see that we would need in Europe 80 gigawatt of electrolysis installed in Europe and 80 gigawatt elsewhere for imports. Again, 80 gigawatt is twice the target that was set in the European Hydrogen Strategy of 40 gigawatt. Again, we will not be able to reach it. Not by 2030, not even by 2040. Perhaps, hopefully, we will be able in Europe to install up to 5 gigawatt by 2030, and perhaps 10 or 15 by 2040. But we will not be able to reach 80 gigawatt.
Thank you for this explanation of all these numbers. Maybe if we consider also the aspects of renewable electricity production, it can look also quite challenging for reaching all these targets. So except targets, I think the key topic for hydrogen economy is prices, because still renewable hydrogen is expensive. In your opinion, what are the main challenges related to hydrogen prices?
So yeah, this is actually a really important topic and kind of underlies some of the challenges that we had talked about previously, the problem of price. So just to give an idea to our viewers, gray hydrogen is right now produced at about €1 per kilo. They say that blue hydrogen, or from natural gas with carbon capture, can be produced at about 2-3 euros per kilo. Unfortunately, green hydrogen is far away from there. Levelized cost of green hydrogen is probably around between 5 to 12 euros per kilo, whereas demand, it seems that cannot afford to pay more than 3 or 4. So really, demand and supply for now are not, unfortunately, meeting. The main reason, you ask me, but first of all, there is a technical one. Of course, hydrogen production is very difficult. It relies on electrolyzers, which at the scale at which we need them now are new. Of course, the technology itself is not new, but the scale is new. They are the main contributor to CAPEX in these projects. Another one is, again, technical, the fact that you have to feed green electricity to electrolyzers to create green hydrogen. And electricity costs are very high. That's if you put CAPEX and OPEX together, unfortunately, then OPEX become even more expensive to projects, and it has a bigger part of the levelized cost of hydrogen than actually CAPEX. But both of them, unfortunately, the cost of electricity and the cost of the electrolyzer make up about 80% of the total cost. That is still very much too high. Another point is the lack of infrastructure. So it's a logistical problem. The EU has, unfortunately, and this is very personal opinion, but has been putting a lot of money in the production of hydrogen, which of course is necessary to kickstart the value chain, but very little on the infrastructure that is needed to bring that hydrogen to the end consumer or to the industrial off-taker. So when talking about the repurposing of pipelines and storage places, could be old salt caverns, old gas caverns, but something is needed for storage and transportation. Unfortunately, this infrastructure on a European level is still lacking. Another one is institutional uncertainty on regulation and incentives. In the past few years, with the new gas regulation, with the delegated acts to renewable energy directive, we have seen some important laws. However, we're still far from a safe and certain regulatory framework, especially in some countries. Even more so for imported hydrogen, even less of a regulatory framework there. The last one that I will mention is alternatives. Of course, for many companies, big off-takers are companies that already produce gray hydrogen, which is something I had mentioned at the very beginning. And for them, the opportunity cost or the better alternative of buying, importing, or producing clean hydrogen is to continue producing gray hydrogen. And that means they have to pay the carbon emissions tax. The carbon emissions tax is, in last year, for example, about 70 euros per ton. That's still too low of an incentive to switch to cleaner alternatives. So again, this is another thing. The European Commission clearly stated that there will be less and less free allowances in carbon credits, and the price of the ones that are sold on the market will go up year after year. However, it doesn't seem to be high enough for now to make it economically viable for these companies to switch from gray to green hydrogen. So again, the dirty alternative is still too cheap.
Yeah, that's true. I had the same opinion about prices on the ETS, that maybe these prices are not so high, just to wait for green technologies. But I hope that in the future we will have the changes. So, and the last question for our discussion, could you offer some advice for those who want to better understand the development of the hydrogen market?
Okay, so first of all, I would just say, if you are interested, do research about it. It's an incredible topic. It's an incredible market that has been formed. I feel really happy to be doing this job at this moment. It's absolutely exciting to be at the beginning of a new market, especially in green energy. It's really, so do inform yourself. As to how to inform yourself, well, kind of like a short answer would be, go on IndHex. There's a lot of information there, or go and to read about in reliable sources. There are a lot of organizations that do a great job on a daily basis. For example, the International Renewable Energy Agency, the Maryna, also Hydrogen Europe, which is the largest association of green hydrogen in the world, with over 600 members. They have a really good intelligence department. They publish reports on a monthly basis, and even, you know, your company might already be a member. ENTSOG, for example, if you're talking just about Europe, which is the organization that brings together all the gas TSOs in Europe, they are very much involved in the development of green hydrogen infrastructure in Europe. So they also have great reports, and just in general, keep up to date with news. An interesting thing that is happening right now is that green hydrogen and clean hydrogen in general is really going out of that niche information section that it used to be in, just for people in the market, and it's reaching a wider audience. It's wonderful to hear and to read articles about it on main newspapers. Very often, and more often, is really talked about at an institutional level, and also in simple, you know, the weekly digest that you might buy on a Sunday to to keep up to date with what's going on, and hydrogen is making a bigger and bigger presence on every kind of newspaper nowadays.
Thank you very much for your advice and for so insightful discussion of the hydrogen market.
Thank you, Maryna.